Yo, what's good, fam? What's poppin'? It's your boy. You already know. And another day, another swing, and another miss. Like we didn't expect that. But we're gonna go over the patch notes. I'm gonna go ahead and throw them up on the screen in front of you. Feel free at any point in time to pause the video if you want to read the patch notes. But let's go ahead, throw those things up on the screen, and let's go over them. So, under the, underneath the fortress and water balancing, basically they just kind of covered all the bullshit of what people have been saying covering fortress and yada 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 yada. We don't really need to dive into that anymore, but they did make some other changes, and that goes into the Devastator set pieces, right? So they changed some of the set piece bonuses and the percentages, and also changed some of the mods. As you can see, there's a lot to actually read, so I'm not actually going to read it for you. It's all right there, right in front of you, so you guys can, like I said, pause it, go over it as you wish. But they did make a lot of changes to the variables and the percentages, and even changing out some of the mods on some of the set pieces, even changing completely the some of the legendary set bonuses to give us some more build diversity. Now, what's interesting about this, and we'll definitely be explaining some more after, you know, it cycles through in the background of the like just the overall, you know, direction of where this is going. So, alright, when you look at the changes to the Devastator, right? They're changing the Marshall set. It'll now have a shared bonus that will derive from anomaly damage, which is nice. You know, you dive into the Pyromancer, they're changing up the Lava Lich set, they're changing up the Reforged set, which is nice. I mean, some of these sets that they have as far as the legendaries, they're not useful at all. And why aren't they useful? Because the majority of them are just, they're like, for instance, the Pyromancer, right? When you dive into the Pyromancer directly and you look at its set bonuses off of the Akari set, for instance, you really can't top the Akari set. You can't. Like, it's almost impossible to be able to top what the Akari set offers, right? If you dive into, let's say, the Devastator, right? The Bleed build off of whatever the hell set that is. I forget the name of the set. You can't top it because of the Bleed, right? So the changes that they're making is kind of nice, because that means people will be able to experiment with the other sets, meaning that those other sets will finally become viable, which is a nice addition. But here's the problem that they did, and I notate this in all my videos because you can see it every time they make changes, right? Now, they gave us changes. And what I'm referring to in they gave us changes is they're not giving us the ability to make changes on our own. They're again forcing our hand with their own changes, basically in a way saying, hey, we're making these changes to help you guys along to make more build diversity. But instead of it doing just build diversity, we're also just going to sit here and let it play out where you're still tied behind the way we want you to play. The way we want these gear pieces to be. Right? So, like, let's discuss. Because this has been a topic I've been wanting to talk about for a very long time, and seeing as they're actually addressing legendary items, this is nice. This gives me something I can actually talk about. So, with legendary gear, right? You should not have any static rolls at all. There should not be static. This would essentially broaden the loot pool, for one, and make farming certain loot pieces and certain set pieces a lot more viable. It would keep the player base going in and wanting to farm for that individual perfect god rolled chest piece or that god rolled anything, right? And instead of just going upper three, like the chest, head, and legs, you'd be able to then go for gloves or boots. You'd be able to arrange your gear the way you want to be arrange your gear. You can roll for a perfect god rolled pair of cooldown reduction, close range damage, and anomaly power on an anomaly build, right? That plays up close with a shotgun. You could do that because you'd be able to keep fighting and running through the expeditions for said content, right? That would add direction to this game and make some of the players kind of want to come back. Of course, a lot of the player base left because of timed content. A lot of people don't want the timed content. They don't. So then you need to also sit back and look at it and be like, okay, well, here's some content. It's here. We're giving you said content. We're changing up things to make your builds more viable, to make you want to have more fun. But this is literally only really catering to the players that are newer to the game. The OGs have already farmed out. A lot of the OGs have already left. A lot of them are already going to play games like Final Fantasy XIV. They're going to play New Worlds. You got Diablo 2 Remake coming out here soon, which a lot of people are going to migrate to. So, you have this competition at this point with this game where the only people you're catering to at the moment is the newer players, the newer purchasers who, are just starting to slowly get through. The more casual players who are slowly just getting out of the campaign. They're just getting their feet wet in the expeditions. They're like, oh, this is such great content. I'm loving this. It feels so smooth. And it does. But when you change these set pieces, you're taking away, right? You're literally taking away from things. Like, if you go and you play games like Destiny, or you go play games like The Division, right? The Division gives you the ability to re-roll certain stats on your gear, right? Or lets you buff up the percentages of said stats on your gear. Which, yes, this game does give you that to an extent, but it's always the same, right? Like, you can get a purple that has the exact same stats, top 3 stats, as a legendary. And when you dump the shards in it to upgrade it, it's always going to come out the same. Your cooldown's always going to max out at like 30%. I think it's 30%. Yeah, I think it's 30%. It's always going to equal out to 30% once you're done putting shards in. Right? So this causes a problem. Your legendary sets, even if you change them, are no longer better than purples. And upgrading, as far as an actual upgrade process, purples are more sustainable to upgrade and to keep using, whereas the set bonuses are very minuscule. Like if you, unless you're literally building your class directly around a certain set item or a set bonus, there's no point in having these legendaries at all. Which is why a lot of the firepower builds are based off of strictly purple rarity gear. Because you can customize the purples better than you can the legendaries. Right? The purples have more roll chance. They have more, they're not static. You can do whatever you want with them. So, like, what needs to be done with legendary gear, right? What needs to be done with legendary gear is the top 3 stats need to be removed from being static and need to be allowed to drop in different rolls just like every other piece of gear, right? What also needs to change is you need to either A, give us a third mod on the gear, right? A third mod, which in turn could probably break the game. And I'm not going to push that. But the easier route would be make the one mod, the top mod on the set piece, make it static. And then the second mod, make it roll. Make it a rolled mod. That way, instead of having these static rolls now, you can easily have, like, your chess pieces roll randomly. Right? Yeah, of course you can change it. But why waste the materials on it if you can fucking roll it when you purchase, or when you pick it up? Right? What this whole process I'm explaining would do is then make legendaries drop more frequently on the battlefield. Because now the loot pool for legendary items will expand. You'll still have the same number of legendaries. The gear sets and everything will still be the same. But because now they have rand rolls on them, and now they actually can roll a certain way, now you're going to have more roll chances. So overall, you're going to have more legendaries drop in later game. Which this would also appeal to a lot of the players who are, strictly pissed off because they can't get legendaries to really drop. So this would be a huge, huge bonus. Right? But again, what they're doing, they are catering currently to the way they want you to play the game. Right? They know we want more content. And sure, they have bugs that they have to fix. We all understand that. I swear, if you go on Reddit and you even simply try and discuss, like, a member of my community made a post on Reddit the other day. And they were wanting to discuss ways, to address the Fortress and Moaning Winds thing as a community. And they even mentioned at the bottom of the post that they wanted it to be constructive. And instead of being constructive, some of these Redditors literally felt the need to dive into this topic and start bitching about things that weren't even relevant to the topic post. Arguing about shit that didn't make fucking sense. And every time you would try to post any kind of reason behind what you were trying to explain, they would act like you were stupid. That's how angry this negative side of the community is. Right? That's how negative it is. And all the shit that they say and all the shit they keep repeating is the same shit you hear from all these YouTubers that cover the game. And sure, some of them may or may not actually like watch these people who do content, but at the end of the day, these people make content. People go on to Reddit, they fucking regurgitate the shit they just heard, and then it causes a public backlash, right? And granted, yes, this game does need a lot of fixes, but it's consistent. Like, I was reading through the patch notes that we just got. I was reading through the comments to see what certain people were saying as the community was giving feedback. And I seen several people that were literally in the post that I was just talking about, in there still bitching about the same fucking shit. Still cursing off the developers for certain things. It's like, as a community, I've had people ask me in the post why I blame the community. Right? Why I blame the community for all the issues that are at hand. And I had to really explain it. And I'm fine with explaining it, you know? You have to really sit back and understand something, especially with this game, right? When you have YouTubers or people trying to juice this game to get themselves known as a relevant source of anything for this content, the YouTube community keeps regurgitating the same build videos, right? So when you go on YouTube, anything that can be even semi-viable information to anybody, or any builds that could be even semi-diverse, you're not going to find them. Because every single 20 seconds, there's some new person posting the same exact regurgitated fucking firepower build that literally has no changes, no mod changes, no stat changes, nothing. And it's just pushing everything even further down the line, right? Down the search query. So now you have all these possible potential builds that are just getting flooded out because people want to fucking keep regurgitating the same meta. And the funny part is, some of these builds are really good. Like, I've seen some of these builds that people have put out, because I'll scroll through, and I've seen some of these build videos, and I have to give people credit for their creativity. You know? Like, one of the members in my community, he's actually a streamer for Outriders over on Twitch, Bellicose Live. He was telling me about a build that he was messing around with, that was something that Lieutenant Buzz Lightyear had put together, that was a trickster using the Borealis set. I was like, huh. Like, we were sitting in a DM, and I was like, how does that even work? And he was explaining it to me. And I was like, yo, that sounds kind of dope. Like, I never would have thought. Like, that's fucking clever. Like, that is really, really clever. Using the 90% bonus off the Borealis on the freeze and running a full freeze set. Like, that's clever. And it made me click to where I was like, yo, hold on. And I logged into the game. First time in probably about a month. I logged into the game, got on my Devastator, took an alt set that I had of Borealis, threw it on my Devastator, even though I didn't have firepower on the boots and the gloves. I still decided to test out a freeze build, right? And I made a build, literally using the Borealis on a Devastator, a full-blown firepower build that focused on the absolute zero, that ran the main frost mod and dark sacrifice, right? And I kept all my mods on there basically remotely the same as the way that I run my actual Devastator build, the one that you usually see in the background of my videos. And it's a bleed build, essentially. So what I was doing was I was using my skills to proc bleed on enemies around me and in the distance, because I run with the reflect shield. And while all these enemies are bleeding, I'm healing from the bleed. And I'm also doing massive, stupid amounts of damage with a 90% increased buff towards my firepower because of the frost every time I freeze an enemy over. It was stupid. Like, it actually was stupid. But see, builds like that get pushed all the way down the search query. And that's why I blame a lot of the community, because a lot of the community is... A lot of the community does that. They push the search queries down, right? And then whenever people ask what's a good build, it's always recommended straight towards the meta. There is no, well, I use this, there's nothing. Like, the community in itself also needs to be educated, because a lot of them don't... There's a lot that comes with a game, right? And yes, addressing the legendary sets is going to be one thing, right? But the community is so wrapped up in thinking that there's so many software bugs that they forget to address that there's network issues, right? Now, people can fly. They know it, which is why they keep pushing out these little bugs, which is why they keep taking so long to put out anything. They know it. They know it's all network based. But with this community being so low and dying as it is, holding barely on at like 1,500 to 2,000 active players, like, they're not going to address anything when it comes to network stability. They're not. They took the cheap route. And I've said this in many videos. They took the cheap route. They went right at us with peer-to-peer. Even when the beta was in motion, people were saying, don't do it. And they were like, no, it'll work just fine. Everything will be great. If we happen to run into issues, we'll address it. We'll admit we were wrong, and we'll switch to dedicated servers. Right? We've heard this quote before. And I always mention back to it. I always use it as a reference. Because if you look at how that's mentioned and how it's mentioned now, people remember it. People don't mention it at all because there's no point, right? There's no point in trying to tell them anymore that there's network issues. Why? Because they refuse to admit that they were wrong. And a lot of the reason they refuse to admit they're wrong is because they took the cheap route. Right? Like, that's one of the major issues that this game has. It's right there. A network issue. If you were to set up a dedicated server, it would work. But the player base is so small, making that kind of investment is just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. unless they decide to finally dig out of their fucking pockets and use the money that we paid for this game to give back to the community what we paid for and set up dedicated servers, they would bring their player base back, but they won't. So, instead of addressing the legendary set pieces, which I have to admit, when I seen that they made these changes to legendary set pieces, I was happy. Because the last video I made, when I was addressing the changes to Moaning Winds and Fortress, I knew that the reason they were making these changes was because there's going to be a meta shift and there's going to be larger changes in the future. And these larger changes need to start somewhere. And the balancing needs to start somewhere. So when there's a complete overhaul like this, they gotta make certain tweaks so that way when they do come out with the overhaul, everything's balanced. But see, everybody bitched so hard that they were like, okay, hold on, now we're gonna push everything back again. And that's why things keep getting pushed back, is because no matter what they do, nobody's happy. No matter what these people do, and I'm guilty of it, I've literally sat here and I've shit on them before, right? So I'm guilty of it. But I'm also trying to be less biased and see things from a little bit more of a clearer fucking perspective, right? And that's what the community needs to do. They need to start opening their eyes and giving these people a fucking chance to redeem themselves instead of shitting down their fucking throat and saying there's no redeemable qualities. Like, we get it, okay? We get it. You're like, this community is like a fucking battered girlfriend who, whose boyfriend cheated on her in high school, and now she refuses to go to school. I don't want to go to school and don't see him no more. Like, fucking shut up, move on. Like, you keep beating and poking the same fucking dead horse over and over and over again. And these devs don't want to hear it. They know what's going on. You're regurgitating it in their face. You're like a fucking child in the back seat of a car going, are you there? Are we there yet? That's literally how this community is. Let these people work, man. Let them work. There are other games coming out. If they decide that they've lost everything, then let it go. There's always going to be like 4 people playing the game because you're always going to have that one dude who made the fucking web app, right? He's going to be there with all the time and money and all the investment he made into a web app and still isn't getting paid by the company for doing so. That's out of his own money. Like, that investment right there, that dude's gonna be there forever. If not, then that was a waste of money. But it was a beautiful idea. I got shit on by the community for telling him that it was a beautiful idea. I just wish he would have done it for a different game. I mean, it's facts. It is a beautiful idea. It's a great looking, fucking beautiful web app. Right? But what's the point of using it if there's such a small community to use it? Right? You put in hundreds, if not thousands of dollars are going to be invested into this thing for domain prices, server prices. Even if he was to do all the coding and all that himself, you still have to look at the domain and the server prices that are going to handle a couple thousand people, maybe more, constantly flooding to this web app, right? And the way web apps work is you still have security that has to be run on these things to make sure there's no vulnerabilities, right? So this guy literally has to sit there and do his own security stuff. If he's not doing security on this web app, then the thing's probably infested with bugs, right? So I'm going to imagine he's doing proper security and vulnerability and penetration testing on this web app, right? If he's not doing it, I'm hoping he has somebody doing it. So either he's doing it or he's paying somebody to manage the security side of things, right? So you have all this investment that might be $100 today, but if he keeps it running for 12 months, that's $1,200 invested on a web app for a community of almost 2,000 people. So yes, it's a beautiful fucking idea. Honestly, the dude should be paid for his time. Like that right there, he should be paid by the developers for his time and his efforts. And they should literally give this man something for his efforts. But the sad part is, developers like that literally go under the fucking radar. They don't get jobs at developing companies. They don't get anything. And I got shit on for saying that. But you know what? I still stand by it. The dude's awesome. He deserves his credit where it's due. It's just, it sucks when it comes to putting it onto a game like this. You know, you really want this game to thrive. And the legendary sets changing, the way that they're changing, it sounds good on paper because people just skim through shit and they see, ooh, legendary changes, ooh, this gets this, ooh, that gets that, ooh, this gets that. But at the end of the day, they're literally not changing shit. They're still making things still static. They might change up some stuff, but there's still going to be boots rolling with health on it. There's still going to be gloves rolling with health on it. They're still going to have things you're never going to fucking equip, never going to use. And it's because they still refuse to listen to us. What this game needs is an overhaul. What they should do is add non-timed expeditions also. Non-timed expeditions would be a great thing because it'd be simple for them to add on as a addition. All they have to do is remove any kind of timer. Now, once the timer's out, you can literally walk through the expeditions with your friends. They can implement a difficulty modifier, kind of like on Halo with skulls. And there you go. Now you can make certain builds more viable. Tanks to go in, grab aggro, and such. But this is thinking too far ahead. This video has gone on long enough. I've covered everything, honestly. I don't know what else more to say. I love you guys though. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope I shared some insight, and for those of you who didn't know about these updates, I hope you kind of see things the way I do, because it's the same fucking, it's the same shit. It literally is. I've said it in every video I've done so far. It's just the same shit. Same shit, different toilet. That's all it is. Same shit, completely different toilet. In the end, this legendary update's not going to do shit. It's really not. Until they remove the whole static shit on gear, it's not going to happen. But before I end this video, I will also notate, Archon did say he's going to start monitoring and going on and keeping up with the Twitch community, and then only mentions two people, one of them being the guy who made the web app. And I'm going to say it right now because I don't care. There's a lot of content creators that are not going to get any love from that at all. They're not going to get any recognition. If I go on the stream right now and I was to pull even around 30 people while helping, I wouldn't get recommendation by Archon or nothing. I would not even get a shout out. And you know why? Because I don't kiss the developer's ass. I don't say everything in the game is perfect and fucking rub their balls and fucking milk their dick. I say the negative and I say the positive. And the way this company is and the way the community manager is, unless you literally don't say anything negative about them and you basically hold your tongue like a good bitch, they will show you recognition. And you know what? That's something I'll never fucking do. It's your boy. I'm out. Peace.